Have you ever stopped to wonder what really separates a good teacher from a truly great one? I mean, it's got to be more than just lesson plans and classroom rules, right? Well, today we're going to go on a journey right inside the learner's mind to unpack the secrets that make great teaching work. Let's get into it.
So, yeah, what is it that makes a great teacher so great? Is it their personality? How much they know? The answer we're going to explore today is that it all starts somewhere much, much deeper. It starts with genuinely understanding the student's inner world. Because really, before you can teach someone, you have to know who it is you're teaching.
So, our first stop is inside the student's mind. To be a really effective teacher, you've just got to appreciate the psychological journey your students are on, especially during those super critical formative years. Okay, this concept here, identity versus role confusion, it really captures such a key moment in a teenager's life. I mean, think about it. This is when a student might suddenly join the school band or completely change their style or cycle through totally different groups of friends. They're not just being random. They are fundamentally asking, who am I? And they're trying on a bunch of different answers to see what fits. A great teacher gets that this whole internal search is happening in the background of every single lesson. So what's the goal of getting through this confusing stage? Well, it's to achieve something called fidelity. It's really just the ability to figure out your own values and then stay true to yourself. And why is this so important for learning? Simple. A student who has a stable sense of who they are can actually focus their energy on schoolwork instead of being constantly pulled in different directions by social pressure and self-doubt. So, once we have a sense of who the student is, the next big piece of the puzzle is figuring out what drives them. What gets them excited? What makes them actually want to learn? And that brings us to the absolutely crucial topic of motivation. And you really can't talk about motivation without talking about Abraham Maslow. His hierarchy of needs, it's like the foundational theory. It gives us this incredible framework for understanding what drives all human behavior. And that, of course, includes a student's willingness to even show up and engage in the classroom. Okay, the most important takeaway here is that learning does not happen in a vacuum. A student who's worried about where their next meal is coming from or who feels bullied and unsafe in the hallways, they simply cannot focus on algebra. It's just not possible. Their brain is totally occupied with survival. A great teacher knows that these basic foundational needs have to be met before a student can even begin to think about reaching their full academic potential. But motivation goes way beyond just meeting our basic needs. It also includes all these non-cognitive factors. We're talking about things like grit, perseverance, and just believing that you can get better. These have nothing to do with raw intelligence. It's all about how you face a challenge. You could almost call them the hidden engines of success in school. And honestly, they often make a way bigger difference than IQ alone. Okay, so we know who the student is and we've got a handle on what motivates them. Now let's get into the mechanics of it all. How does information actually get into our brains and, stick? What are the actual blueprints for building knowledge? This is such a crucial distinction. Cognition is the doing part, the reading, the solving of the problem. But metacognition, that's a level up. It's thinking about your thinking. It's that little voice inside your head that asks, hang on, do I actually get this? Or am I just reading the words on the page? Helping a learner develop this self-awareness is like giving them a superpower. And that brings us to a classic idea from Vygotsky, the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. Just think of it as the Goldilocks zone for learning. It's not too easy, it's not too hard, it's just right. For example, a little kid probably can't do a 500-piece puzzle by themselves. But with a parent's help, pointing out the edge pieces, suddenly they can do it. That's the ZPD in action. So how does a teacher help a student cross that zone of proximal development? They use scaffolding. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Just like scaffolding on a building, this is temporary support. It could be a hint, a question, breaking a problem down into smaller steps that helps the student reach a new level. And once they've got it, the scaffold comes away. Another giant in learning theory is John Dewey, who really pushed this idea that we learn best by doing. His whole theory is that true understanding doesn't come from just sitting and listening to a lecture. It comes from getting your hands dirty, actively engaging with the world, making mistakes, and then thinking about those experiences. And this kind of learning happens in a continuous cycle. Just imagine a science experiment. First, you do the experiment. That's active participation. Then, you think about why you got the results you did. That's reflective thought. And finally, you use that new insight to change what you do on the next experiment. That's applying new knowledge.
It's this loop of doing and thinking that really makes learning stick. Of course, learning theories have to evolve with the times. Connectivism is a perfect example. It's a theory for our digital age. It basically argues that today, learning is less about memorizing a bunch of facts and way more about building a network. The ability to find information, figure out if it's any good, and put it all together from different online sources is now an absolutely critical skill. Knowing how to find the answer is often way more valuable than already knowing it. Okay, so let's bring it all together now. With this deep understanding of the student and how learning actually works, what does the teacher do in the classroom? This is all about the teacher's craft, the practical tools they use every single day. Modern teaching is really all about creating an environment where every single student feels safe and valued. This really boils down to a three-part approach: being proactive with classroom management to stop problems before they start, being culturally responsive to honor where your students come from, and being trauma-informed to support students who have faced tough times. Put them all together, and you build a foundation of trust where real learning can actually happen.
So how in the world do you teach a room full of totally different learners? Well, here are two really powerful approaches. Think of it like this. Individualized instruction is like giving each student their own unique map to a completely different destination. Differentiated instruction, on the other hand, gives everyone a map to the same destination, but it provides different paths to get there. Some might take the scenic route, others a more direct one, but the goal is that everyone gets there successfully. And finally, this might be the most important tool in any teacher's toolkit: reflection. Just like metacognition is for the student, reflective teaching is for the educator. It's the simple habit of looking back on a lesson and asking, what worked? What didn't work so well? And how can I make this better tomorrow? This is what turns a good teacher into a truly great one. So, we've journeyed through the mind of the learner and the craft of the teacher. And now the question is really for you. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just somebody who's curious, which one of these ideas really hits home? Is it the importance of meeting a student's basic needs, or maybe the magic of that just right challenge? Think about one single concept you could apply tomorrow, because the journey to transforming education, it always begins with one powerful idea.